How's life now for you now that you are away from the NBA and all that noise?
Life has been great, other than the pandemic and all the social justice issues that not only myself but the world has had to deal with. I'm happy. I'm back up in my hometown where I was born and raised in Oakland. I'm coaching GLeague Ignite team, which is it's about a 15-minute drive for me to get to work. And it's the first time in over 30 something years that I've actually been able to live in my house here in Oakland and work in the same place.
Oh, that's kind of strange for you now, isn't it?
It is. It's different. You know, my kids are grown now. They're in college. And so we have an empty nest for the most part, and just embarking on a different, transitioning into a different part of life.
Because you were commuting for a long, long time.
Yes, I was. Well, you know, basically maintaining a residence here where I'm born and raised and will always live. And then, you know, having a place wherever I worked, which for a lot of years was obviously in Los Angeles.
So how is it now being the coach there on that level?
You know what? It's refreshing, and I use the word refreshing because of the fact that the players still have a level to get to, right? You know, my team, the GLeague Ignite, consists of 4 to 5 elite high school prospects that are embarking on their journey to try to make it to the NBA. And we sprinkle in a few NBA vets as well as some GLeague vets to make their transition and learning process go smoothly and prepare them for that jump to the next level. And so they come in with a beginner's mind, just eager to learn. Money hasn't really spoiled them to a degree yet. And so it's refreshing in that, you know, I get to run my own program, not really anybody that I have to answer to, on my way to helping them get to where they're trying to get to.
Do you find them in awe of you because of everything you accomplished in your career?
Not at all. Actually, it's the complete opposite. You know, most of the guys are our young guys, which the program is basically, you know, emphasizes them and their development. They're between 17 and 19 years old. So most of them were not around at all during my playing days. And so, you know, with this new world that we live in and technology and social media and everything else, it's kind of like, you know, what have you done for me lately? When I mentioned the guys that I played with, especially at the beginning of my career with Larry Birds and Kevin McHale's and, you know, guys of that nature, a lot of them have no idea who any of those past players are. And, you know, so to answer your question, no, they're not in awe at all.
Is it kind of surprising, shocking to you, or refreshing to you that they don't know about the Birds and the McHale's and the people that you're talking about?
It's surprising and refreshing at the same time. I mean, you know, I was a student of the game when I was, you know, all the way up. So I knew most of the players that came before me, you know, going way, way back almost to the beginning. But that's because of the interest that I took in the game. And I understand now that, you know, the players have a lot more, I don't want to just call them distractions, but just a lot more things out there that they're exposed to than during the time when I was their age and I was coming up. And so that's refreshing in a way that is kind of a fresh start. They sometimes, you know, they'll Google, you know, different statistics or highlights, you know, whatever from my playing days. And, you know, the one thing that really, really captures their attention is the fact that when they see that I played with Kobe and with Shaq and even coached Kobe, you know, they definitely know who he was. and respect him and idolized him. And, and so that resonates with them. And when I really want to grab their attention, I can use that to my advantage and say, hey, Kobe didn't shortcut, doing this drill or putting in that work. And it's no accident that he became as great as he was because of that. And so, when I can use examples like that, it grabs their attention.
But what do you say about Shaq? Because one of the highlights in your career was, I think it's probably 1999 when you rejoined and teaming up with Shaq. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was. And I talk about the young Shaq that I played with in the Orlando Magic days from 94 to 96 before he came to the Lakers. And then the Shaq that I obviously played with on the Lakers from the 99 to 2003 season when I retired. And, so they always have a lot of questions about that. And a lot of times, I'm still communicate with Shaq regularly, and he shouts me out a lot when he's on Inside the NBA. And so they get a kick out of that, knowing that and seeing some of the highlights from those days.
When you talk to Shaq, does he still refer to you as B Knuckle?
That was the name. It's funny. We all shaved our heads it started when I was in Miami. We all shaved our heads bald right before we played Orlando. And when Shaq was a rookie. And he said that all of our heads, if we put our heads together, we look like knuckles on a fist. So everybody, whatever their first initial was, they would get, that was their name. So for me, it was B Knuckle.
But he was good at giving nicknames to everybody, and that was a team where everybody enjoyed not only giving nicknames to other people, but harassing them, so to speak.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you had to have a thick skin. When you played, on the teams that we played on, especially those Laker teams, championship teams in 2000, 2001, and 2002. We spent a lot of time together on the bus and on the plane. Shaq was obviously doing movies and music. And so we would have freestyle sessions on the bus and the plane and, talk about each other. If you wore something that looked funny, anything like that, they were going to find it and pick it apart.
Can you give me a little example of your freelancing? Because I heard you did a little rapping now.
Well, I put my mic down. I retired my mic, but I will. I can send you to. So back in 1994, Sony Records put out an album called B-Ball's Best Kept Secrets, and they selected 10 NBA players to make a rap album, and they gave us money to go out and pay for a producer and studio time and all of that. And so I had a song on there. Shaq had a song. Dennis Scott, Gary Payton, Jason Kidd. There was 10 players. So if you want to see what my rap skills were like, you can look up that album. It's called B-Ball's Best Kept Secret, and then you can see what I can do.
Oh, don't worry about that. That will be done. We're working on that as we speak. Do you remember any of the lyrics?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, mine was very personal. My song was called Anything Can Happen. And in 1993, I lost my mother, father, and my sister in a car accident. And the only one that survived was my niece, who I've raised as my daughter. She's about to be 29 next month. And so my song was kind of a dedication to my family, talking about my journey, up to the point when I lost them.
Because you've always been family oriented. As long as I've known you, even as important as basketball was and still is in your life, your family was even more important.
For sure. Without them, I wouldn't be who I turned out to be. And, one of the things that kind of helped me get through that process when I lost them was the fact that while they were here, we lived life and we did things together. We traveled and we made memories. They got to come see me play all over the world. And so, the Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners and stuff that we had as a family are, when they're gone, that's the only thing that you have is the memories that you made while they were here. And so I feel like we still had a full life together, even though their lives were cut short because of the fact that we did things while they were here. So, so a lot of people who hold on to grudges and things and don't get to spend that quality time, they have regrets, when unfortunately somebody gets called home early. But for me, I felt like we lived. And so, every time I think of them, it puts a smile on my face, and I just try to carry on the legacy and just be half the parents and sibling that I was, that my parents and my sister were.
See, that's why you're a hero. I mean, because of all the things you did on the floor, absolutely. But the things you did off the floor and what you stand for as a man in helping our young people and to get them on the right path. That's one of the big things and one of the big reasons why, people refer to you as a Laker legend, a Laker hero.
Well, I don't know how far I would go with the legend, the legend part, but I tell you this, I was always taught to shoot straight, and to be honest about, situations. And I think that's one of the reasons why my teammates, whether it was the star of the team, being Kobe or Shaq, down to one of my favorite teammates of all time, Mark Madsen, I still maintain a relationship with him. And when we played, we all hung out, and I wasn't afraid to, if Kobe or Shaq were doing something and they needed to, somebody to get on them, I was that guy. But I could go to dinner with Shaq and I could go to the movies with Mark Madsen. And so I think that they respected the fact that I treated everybody the same, and demanded that respect back from them.
When you just mentioned respect, it's also respect and trust, because you were one of the few people, and I think Derek Fisher may have been the other, you were one of the few people that actually had I wouldn't say an opportunity, but Kobe trusted you and you trusted Kobe. And whenever there was things that went kind of screwy, you could calm him down or he would come to you for advice.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people probably don't know I played against Kobe's father, Joe Jellybean Bryan, the year I went to Italy back in 1989. And that's when I first met Kobe. He was about 10 or 11 years old. And, his father played in a city called Reggio Emilia, and they used to come to Rome where I played. So we developed this relationship, when Kobe was a little boy, to the point where when he was a junior in high school, his father brought him to a finals game in Orlando when we were playing against the Houston Rockets in 1995, in which Kobe told me he was thinking about leaving high school as a junior to jump to the NBA. And by this time, I hadn't seen him since he was like 10. He was, standing looking me in the eye at 6'6". And a year later, got to see him actually make that jump straight to the NBA out of high school. And then I played against him his first couple of years, and then obviously teamed up with him to win those championships in the early 2000s, and then got to coach him, after that. So our relationship spanned a lot of years, and I got to see him transition through a lot of different phases of his life, and really cherished the friendship and the trust and the respect that we had for one another.
I remember hearing you tell the story about how he went fishing, or you wanted him to go fishing one day, and you told him about the fish that you caught, and you threw him back, and he said, you shouldn't keep him. I mean, you shouldn't throw him back. You should keep him.
Yeah, it was actually his basketball camp that he had in Santa Barbara, where I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, and it was one morning. It was the night before. I told him, "Hey, I'm going to go." We're at the Bacara, right off the beach there in Santa Barbara, and I said, "Hey, I'm going fishing in the morning. I'm going to be out there about 6 o'clock. You wanna join me? I got a pole for you." He said he was going to come, but he didn't end up coming. He went and worked out. I took a picture of the sharks and the stingrays that I was catching, and I texted to him and I said, "See what you missed?" And he called me right back and he said, "What did you do with them?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" I took a picture of them and then I threw them back. And he said, "What did you do that for?" And I said, what do you mean? What was I supposed to do with him? And he was like, they got caught, so you're supposed to kill him and eat him. And that was his mentality when he was on the court, right? He was a killer. And it didn't matter if you were his teammate, if you were his coach, if you were his opponent, he was going for your jugular if he felt that there was any weakness in you at all. And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoyed playing with him and coaching him, because with a guy like that, it made you feel confident walking out there on the floor with him, like you could beat anybody because of the approach that he took to the game.
I mean, it's very unique and unusual about your career, because as a player, you were one of them. Then when you turned out to be a coach, you were one of them.
Yeah, and Phil Jackson, when I retired, Frank Hamlin, who was an assistant coach, my last 2 years told me that I was going to be a coach and made me start coming in and doing scouting reports and watching film with the coaching staff. And when I retired, Phil said, you know what, you're too close to it. You need to take some time away from the guys so that they can respect you as a coach when you come back and coach. So I did college scouting for the Lakers for a year, their first year when I retired. And then Phil hired me as a coach when I came back. And that was one of the things that he wanted to see, was if I could be a coach and be respected without still hanging out and doing the things that I did as a player when I was playing with these guys as teammates. And so I think that I proved that I could do both, and it helped me kind of as a liaison between the players and the coaching staff, because I was so closely removed from being a player, but yet understood and like I said, demanded the respect of a coach as well. 14
years in the league. You were on those teams that three-peated. Now, that had to be just absolute. That was like a dream, wasn't it?
It was, and it's something like, obviously that was done before, the early Celtic teams had won multiple championships after another. And then obviously the Bulls teams who had done it twice. So to be a part of, just a short list of teams that were able to accomplish that. So that's why I kind of just smile and laugh when you have teams now that, the dominant teams of today, and they talk about who's the best team of all times or who was a dynasty. I don't know that there will be too many teams that could, other than obviously those Celtic teams and maybe those two Bulls three-peat teams, that could really deal with what we had on our Laker team. And then with Phil Jackson as the coach as well, Jerry West as a GM, and Chick Hearn as an announcer. It doesn't get any better than that.
Do you remember the nicknames that you guys gave each other on those teams?
Yeah. There were a lot of nicknames several nicknames, most of them of which we cannot talk about and mention on air. We called Rick Fox Blondie for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
They called me B Knuckle. The clean stuff that we called each other basically was, revolved around our names, so it wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah, we'll just have to talk personal, off the record about those other names.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say is the highlight of your career with the Lakers?
The highlight of my career, I would have to say, well, it was the first championship, but I think it was the journey on the way to that first championship in 2000. For me personally, the game that I played, in the role that I played in the Portland series of the Western Conference Finals in 2000, because to me that game kind of unlocked and it was the beginning of the three championships. And without getting through that series, we wouldn't be the Lakers that we ended up being, with those three-peats. And so the circumstances being down by 16, And then in the fourth quarter, the rally that we went on and some of the shots and plays that I made during that time for me personally was a highlight of my career.
And how many rings do you have?
I have five rings. I have three as a player and two as an assistant coach, all with the LA Lakers. And so, what's funny is I always thought before I got the first ring that if I was fortunate enough to get one, that I would wear it all the time. I don't know that I wore any of the rings more than I don't maybe 3 times.
Really? Why?
For one, they're huge, and I like to be understated and kind of under the radar. So, I don't want to. I just always feel like I don't want to draw any attention to myself. But one of the things that I do when I go speak at basketball camps and things of that nature, I know that most people in their life don't get the opportunity to see what a championship ring looks like. So when I speak to kids and even when I coach teams and what have you, I'll bring the rings around and in their cases and let them take a look at it and see what it's like.
Because it's really amazing as I watched you through your career with the Lakers, the stars that were on that team had the stars of Hollywood in awe. I mean, you could go to see Denzel and there's Jack and there's all these people who are really in awe of you because you could do something that they could only dream about.
Yeah, and it went the other way too, because when we would see them and the hoopla that surrounded them when they came to the games, or see them on the big screen or on stage at a concert or whatever the case may be, it's funny the synergy between athletes and entertainers. Entertainers come to the games and they dream about what it would be like if they were players and they were actually out there hooping, and we always want to rap or act or do what they do. But just that whole atmosphere, at the Staples Center and even prior to that at the Forum, it is something that can't be matched by any other organization, any other city in the country. And that's why the Lakers brand will always be special and be on top of the heap when it comes to that.
Do you realize how lucky you are to have had the fabulous career that you have had and to be able to play for this franchise, which is recognized all over the world? And now you are imparting all of that knowledge on these youngsters that's going to grow up to be hopefully better citizens?
Hey, I pray every day and thank God for the blessings that have been bestowed upon me. I'm sitting here in my office at home. It's a little junky right now with the remodeling, but behind me right here, pictures of the rings that I've won. So every day when I come in here and I look at that and I look at some of the pictures and plaques and trophies and things, I just thank God every day for giving me the opportunity to be a part of that, experience that, and make form some of the relationships that I've been able to over that period of time.